Hot Wheels Jordan Owen, driver of the Craft Automotive Repair Services 68 Chevrolet Cobalt. I race in Sunset Speedway's Bone Stock Division, and you're watching ONTrack Weekly.
Well, good evening, everybody. Cam K here with you on ONTrack Weekly on GeForce TV. After what has been a crazy couple of hours, a crazy couple of days for those in Ontario, I can't really say the same for here in the city, but I know outside of the city, people are really dealing with a lot. Brad Laval actually has already said he's got the hum of the generator in the background. He's got still no power or internet. Real shame. Weather has been a real pain and is impacting a lot of people, I think, getting ready for the 2025 season. The tracks will be getting ready to start prepping stuff, and we will start to have practices really in a couple of weeks, and that's worrisome. We'll start with preseason practices for Delaware Speedway April 26th and May 2nd before they get ready for their opening weekend. It's getting a little crazy to think about that. We've still got some really bad weather impacting us now, but this tends to be the common, tends to be the norm, and unfortunately it has been a big impact so far this year. We've seen a couple of racers that have actually had to deal with crashes of their in their home, trees, snow, ice, buildup, flooding. I just saw somebody today, Alyssa from Mia Ford Racing, posting that their house is all flooded. It's really tough to see that right before the racing season starts. And unfortunately, this is something that we're gonna, when we have become accustomed to, is seeing weather impact our racing season. And of course it does impact yearly. We get rainouts, and the big question starts to become, and I know that there's been some question over what do we do when weather is going to impact weekly. Now, Peterborough Speedway has had a really rough go of it the last couple of seasons. I mean, we had the big tornadoes that tore down some stuff at their track, caused some significant damage. We've seen that area seemingly get destroyed again this weekend. Now, we don't know about any damage to the actual track. There's not been any post. I don't think Jess Blair, who is now taken over as their social media person, has not indicated whether or not there is any significant damage. They might not even mention if there is. We already know that a lot of the tracks that would like to get going can't get the snow out of the way first to be able to start working on their stuff for 2025. Unfortunately, this is a byproduct of living in Canada, and this is the product of having our season start in April officially with cars on the racetrack for practices. I'm hoping that we'll just get a nice switch over into spring, especially when you consider that Sunset, Flamborough, their opening weekend's first week of May. And we don't have a lot of wiggle room around scheduling. Now, I know people have talked about it before about, well, if we get a rain out, why don't we just move it to the Sunday? If we're rained out on the Saturday. The big question mark is it feasible? I believe in a lot of situations with racetracks, they would have to get some sort of approval to be able to do so. The worry is if you have a season similar to what Peterborough had last year, where a large margin of their schedule was impacted by rain and weather. And when you don't have a ton of room on your daily schedule to get rid of scheduled events, then what do we do then? So I know that there's a want for rain out dates. And I think that there's going to need to be some movement from tracks to do this. Is one thing that I think fans forget about is the tracks have operating costs every time that they open up their gates. And when they open up their gates, they have staff. And they have to pay those staff then to come back. They have security, they have ambulance people that they still have to have people running the commissary or the stores, security. And sometimes they can't do that. Sometimes they can't have people come back the next day. And then all of a sudden they don't have the staff to do it. Brad, who knows well about it, Brad Laval, of course, being a part of the officiating team out at Peterborough, it isn't as simple as just, oh, let's just do it tomorrow. Because there's other factors, including the county and noise restrictions on Sunday mornings. And yes, there are some occasions where tracks are allowed to do that. I mean, we see it for ACC, special events, long weekends. Like, they do have that wiggle room there. But it's not as simple as just, oh, we'll just run it tomorrow. It's not like NASCAR. It's not as straightforward as NASCAR is, where you can just, oh, okay, well, we'll just do it tomorrow. Now, I know a couple occasions, Peterborough, what they did was they basically doubled up their schedule and they added stuff to the following week. And I think that's kind of the way that you have to go about it. The problem is when you've already got a really stacked card as it is, then you don't really have a lot of room to move stuff. So what I know we ended up doing when we were there. Now, during that race weekend, we were there for the entire Ontario Sportsman Series and last year, and it actually wasn't a weather delay. It was actually, they had two medical situations that night, if I'm not mistaken. It may have just been the first night that we were there, but both times I went to Peterborough this year, there was a medical issue, and the medical issue resulted in the ambulance having to take somebody out of the track area and be met by an outside ambulance. You can't do that until the ambulance, you can't race until the ambulance returns. So there's a lot that goes into that and those decisions. Obviously, you need to be able to have those staff there. And it's similar to like a hockey game. I mean, you've seen it a couple of times where they will get delays for somebody if there's a medical issue. and you have to move stuff on the fly. And I do not ever want to be in that position where I have to be the one to decide what needs to be moved out of the way. Because no matter what you do, someone's not going to be happy about the schedule. Someone's not going to be happy that they push your stuff out of the way. They got rid of heats, or they got rid of this, or they moved this till next week. It's a losing game, unfortunately, when you have situations like that, but it has to happen. So a continuous situation for this year is going to be, what do they do when it comes to weather delays, weather postponements? Is there a necessity for a make update? Should it be standard practice that you make up whatever you miss? Even if you have to do double features the following week, you scrap a heat and you run 2 features instead. Is that something that is what tracks can do? You have situations like Flamborough. Flamborough, they do double features for most of their classes anyways. So what are you going to do then? You're going to triple or quadruple? That might be a lot to ask. I think by having a schedule like what Flamborough has, with what it's like 36, I think 36 to 42 races for pure stocks, you can afford to take a couple of weeks off if the weather impacts and cancels those races. But when you have, say, a 10 race schedule, it's a lot harder. Now, tracks get impacted by weather every year. I mean, it impacts everything. It impacts the fans. And there's never really a win. Now, a situation like what we've had this week, where the whole place is shut down, tracks but more than likely would not run. Situations of that sort is just not a good, it's not a good feeling. You don't want to put anybody at risk. If your track is damaged, facilities are damaged, you got to make those calls as to what you do. Now, we've been lucky, actually. Last year, of the events that I went to, there was only one cancellation. And that was actually one of the nights I was supposed to go to Peterborough, aside from the OSS. So that was a little disappointing, because we were going to go for a second race at Peterborough. I'm going to see some of the junior late models in action, so some of the SNS racers last year, and that we weren't able to do it because the weather impacted it, and there was no makeup in that case. I mean, there was nothing they could really do about it. And then when that happens, it results in us going somewhere else, because now that race is scrapped, it's not back on the schedule, so we won't be able to move something around. So I definitely think that when it comes to weather impacted events, there needs to be some onus on the tracks as well to consider the Sean Gibbs rule. And I call it the Sean Gibbs rule because I think it was one of the classiest things that he could have done. When we were there for OSS, we were touring division, and OSS doesn't have the biggest following, and it's not the most sexy division out there, but he had super stocks, and I believe it was super stocks and bone stocks, I believe, were also there. And he put OSS on first because they knew weather was coming. And OSS guys, sure, we have a lot of locals to Delaware, but at that time, there was also a lot that came from the east and up north. So by putting them on first, we only had to get to 55 or 50 laps, and we ran 55 before the weather came in and ended the event. And I will always remember that, because he didn't have to do it. But what his thinking was, we could move those divisions and we just do a double feature next week. So that's why not overloading the card is very helpful because you do have that wiggle room that you can move stuff around. I mean, other times we've seen tracks where they'll axe fan appreciation, or they'll axe the intermission and try and make up for those weeks where, yeah, we can't fit everything in. I really am hoping that this year we're not going to see this very often. I mean, we've kind of had weather impact. I feel like Peterborough is the one that's gotten the most. Sauble always has weather related stuff. Varney, not so much. I think Varney actually has done pretty well. In Sunset last year had, I think, 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to impact. It's just a matter of how much it impacts and whether it's even doable. I mean, Flamborough, we were we were there for OSS, and the worst experience you can have at a racetrack is you're there for a specific series, you're working for that specific series, you make it there the entire night, and right as we do the pace laps, it sprinkles, and it was not expected to rain at all. I think it was like a 5% chance. And it just sprinkled enough that they couldn't go green, and then it stopped. But by that time, most of the fans had already left. We were approaching curfew time, and unfortunately, they called the race. But all those drivers that had come from 4 hours away basically came to do some pace laps and practice, turned around and went home. That's what I'm talking about, doing something like of the sort, where if you know weather is there, you've got a touring division, stick the touring division on first. Even in a situation where you've got a division like OSS that's 100 laps, it's better to try and get them out there and get at least to halfway, because then that's an official race for them. They don't have to come back. You don't have to have a rescheduling where you're bringing more people, shuffling more things around, and you've made that. So, yeah, I definitely think that we're going to have some of those situations this year. Hopefully, we won't have them that bad, and we'll see kind of what comes out of it. Now, there was some news that came out this past week, which is great, that we have a new partnership with the United Racing Series. The United Racing Series announced officially that Just Foam It is no longer with their modified division. In fact, they've got a bit of a change. And you know what's great about this is that it's an announcement that is a result of a modified racer, Tyler Liscombe, and the Overkill Enterprise business is now going to be the primary partner for the United Racing Series modified division. Of course, the Oscar modifieds, always a great source of fun. Really, really great to see that they were behind it. Let's take a look at this press release here. We are pleased to announce that Overkill Enterprise has joined us as the title sponsor for the United Racing Series / Oscar modified division for the 2025 season. Longtime Oscar driver and team owner Tyler Liscombe and his company Overkill Enterprise have been a great supporter of motorsports in Ontario, and we look forward to this partnership. Tyler has been involved in the Ontario racing scene in many ways for quite some time, including competing at a high level and supporting racers, and we couldn't be more excited to have Overkill Enterprise as the modified title partner, mentions Alex Nagy, who is the Director of Motorsports for the United Racing Series and Oscar. I would like to express my gratitude for allowing me to sponsor and support the Oscar Modified Series. It has been an incredible experience to be part of such a dynamic and passionate community. Being associated with your racing series has not only allowed me to contribute to the growth of the sport, but has also provided me with the opportunity to connect with fellow racing enthusiasts and fans. I would like to wish the teams and the entire team at the United Racing Series and Oscar series, continued success, and an exciting racing season ahead. And of course, that is from Tyler Liscombe. Now, while the modifieds have made their announcement and they've got a partner for 2025, so far there has not been a announcement in terms of that, in terms of the hot rods. Now, I'm going to go try and see if I can find, I believe there was a graphic put out, and it did not actually have, yes, it doesn't actually have it yet. So we're curious to see, this is the graphic that they put out. So it'll be curious to see whether or not we do get a title partner for the hot rod division. Last year, JRS Auctions was their partner. Obviously, the hot rods going through a bit of a change, it would appear, in terms of, you know, their weekly kind of car counts. Things have been a little bit up and down, but the hot rod division as a whole is on fire. And I think where they're losing people is because there's home divisions now. There's hot rod divisions that are almost at every track. I mean, or at least a track that you can run your hot rod in a different division. So similar, you can drive in a V8 stock at Delaware Speedway, the United Eights at Sauble Speedway. Hot rods are in at um, uh, Full Throttle, and they're at Sunset. So it's kind of there's a lot of places to go and take your hot rod and race in 2025. It doesn't have to be just a touring option anymore. Now, we'll take a look at our updated schedules or I'm sorry, updated rosters to see what we've got. Now we don't have a ton in terms of additions or changes, but why we're going to go through this and look at it is because this is one of the things that I'm very passionate about, is building the hype for who is racing, who's not racing in 2025. Talk about some of the names that are coming in, some of the names that are not. And J-Ski, if you guys don't know J-Ski's motorsports site, silly season has been his big thing, and I know we don't really do it here, because a lot of the times drivers aren't changing teams; they're sticking with their own equipment, or they're moving a division or changing the number or so. But that's the type of stuff I think that we benefit from, and I think the more that we can do it, the better. I know that there's a lot of people that don't believe that. There are some old school folks that are not fans of me doing this, that they've said it as such, and they don't believe that it offers anything. I would just disagree. I think that there's definitely room for mentioning and promoting any sort of roster moves. Um, Not everybody does it. Not everybody announces their what their plans are, and I think we want to build the hype towards the season. We don't want it to be dead quiet, and we've seen it be dead quiet before. And it's not that it hurts the series and it doesn't hurt everybody else involved, but I think the hope would be that when we do have announcements, that people start sharing them and people post them and people get excited about who's going to do what this year. And that's the big thing, is where are the fan bases right now in motorsports? Is there enough of a fan base to create a community of racing fans that would be interested in this? I think there is. I think that there's still a lot of work behind it. It takes a lot to draw people out. It really does. It takes a lot to get people interested and involved, especially getting involved. Now, when we've talked about this on the show before, that you have to be able to make moves to make your track attractive. Now, I have not been to Grand Bend Speedway. I don't know much about Grand Bend. I know I follow it because of we have S&S racers that race out of Grand Bend. I love the track. I think it's a great little facility. And we've mentioned before their efforts, and their efforts continue. This is another step in the right direction. New at Grand Bend Speedway this summer. Take a look here. Bring the whole family because kids and youth age 15 and under now get spectator admission free of charge. You are reading that correct. 15 and under in for free. I think what we're seeing is Grand Bend knows that they need to make moves like this. They need to attract people coming into their facility, and especially at that young demographic. You need those young kids to be coming in, especially at a track that has such a stacked junior sprint division. A way, an entry into motorsports. So those kids that go to Grand Bend Speedway that love it, they could go and get right into a junior sprint, straight up into a 9 horsepower sprint, then up into a bone stock, all at Grand Bend. It's an excellent way of trying to bring the audience back week after week. Would I expect other tracks to do this move? Probably not. But the big question mark in 2025 is what would be the price that you would pay? We know what the prices are, but what would you feel is the appropriate cost? The appropriate cost to have a family event at a racetrack for a night. Now, in other aspects, it's not the easiest to get to. It's not downtown Toronto where you have the GO train and Uber and taxis and the subway and buses. Racetracks are rural. They're not close to the city. Are there options? Drive the kids to the track and get in for how much? Now we're going to take a look at admission prices on something as small as the Toronto Zoo. And I mention this because this is something that my mom used to do in the summertime when my dad was working at the firehouse. To make sure the kids weren't bored, she would kill a day, really mostly just like a morning, mid-afternoon. Take the kids out there, let them tire themselves out, and all of a sudden, you've got a great event. But all of a sudden I'm looking here and I'm seeing, okay, well there's parking that you have to pay for the zoo, and then there's the admission, and the prices are going to be different depending on who is part of your group. So I'm looking at this as $26 for an adult. $26 for an adult, $18.52 for a kid. Already, Grand Bend's more attractive because the kid's getting in for free. That's 12. 3 to 12 is $20 to get in. So there's our comparison right there. Now, it's how much are our adult prices when we go to the racetrack. And I'm sorry, but if you're spending $40 on a ticket, it's way too expensive. Not in this day and age. Now, let's look at something like the CN Tower. Let's see what the CN Tower tickets are like. Yes, we're talking mostly city stuff, frankly, because that's what people tend to go to, is they go to attractions. So, personally, I don't really understand the appeal of being up stories high, but perfect example. Look at this. Okay, if you're going to the CN Tower, you're averaging well over $100. $45 to $47 for an adult ticket. Whereas a kid, $32 to $34. Are we not seeing the benefit of taking to the racetrack? Kids in for free, pay for 2 adult tickets. You're not getting in for free here. And that's, in my opinion, that's highway robbery. You're spending all that money to go up in the sky. I don't, as somebody that's not a fan of heights, I can tell you I would never in a million years pay for that. Now let's talk even more. Okay, let's talk about something else. We've done the zoo. We've done the CN Tower. Let's look at the Blue Jays tickets. And frankly, the Blue Jays, who aren't expected to do very well this year. So let's look at single game tickets. Okay. Single game tickets for 2 adults and we'll say 2 kids. Okay. And we'll pick a single ticket here for the Jays against the Washington Nationals. Now, their prices, we're still looking upwards of $20. So $20 for an outfield ticket. If you want a really good ticket, these are down here. Yeah, see, you're looking at thousands of dollars for really, really good ones. $135 for lower. All the way up top, $27. $27. $84. So you can spend all that money to see a losing team. I'm hopefully not. I'd love if the Jays can do well this year. I was rewatching a whole bunch of highlights from when they weren't sucking. But look at the difference we're talking about here. Now let's go to a racetrack. Let's pick Peterborough. I don't know if they actually have the ticket prices on here, but we'll see. There's a link that says buy event tickets. However, it just takes me to the same spot. So, I was going to say, I would love to be able to find out that information straight away, because this is the type of stuff you got to plan ahead of time, right? But if you go, say, for opening night, free admission, all of a sudden, now you've got a night where your kid gets autographs, kid gets to take a picture with the drivers, gets to go, take a seat in the cars, potentially can win some free stuff, get a whole bunch of free stuff, get a bag of goodies, get to see some cars go around the racetrack, get some food, and all for free admission. So, by doing what they're doing here, Grand Bend is putting themselves in a better position here. I definitely love the idea. I love what they're doing. Let's see. For Ripley's Aquarium. So Al sent me an adult ticket for the aquarium is $50. For a youth, it is $33. And for a child, it's $15. Racetracks are attractive. Now, if I could find, I know a lot of the tracks they won't put their ticket prices on the website. They have them available at the track. So it's a little hard to find where the ticket costs are, but I believe we're talking $25 for adults. So it's putting you in the same position. But for racetracks, you cannot be in that $50 range per person. You can't be in $40 per person. Hell, you can't even be in 30. You should be looking at 15, 10 to 15 bucks. I know it sounds crazy. You know, tracks need to make money. That's the point, right? You got to get people there into the stands. Okay, so here we go. Regular night admission for adults is $25 at Sunset. This is 2024 prices. Kids are $10. All cheaper than what we just looked at. In fact, kids 12 and under for $10. We just looked at the aquarium. They're $15. There's $5 cheaper to go. Well, actually, youth is $33, and the youth is 6 to 13 for Ripley's Aquarium. So 12-year-old kid, you have two 12-year-old kids, you're spending $20 instead of $66. Why we don't have people flocking to go to the racetrack with the prices that, I know I hear people complain about the costs, but if you look at the costs of a lot of other big attractions, we haven't even gone to the Maple Leafs. It is absolutely ridiculous, the costs of doing other attractions. I mean, a famous one that people tend to go to in the summertime is the X. Now, whether they're going to be able to do it, yeah, see, here we go. General admission to the X is $26.55, not including HST. Then you add the child admission, which is $22.12, and that's 5 to 13. Family of 4 can spend a lot. Now, if we can find a way to have tracks that do have a discounted price for a family, like a family pass of 4, get in for, I don't know, $80, $50. I mean, 25, $50 right there. 2 kids, make it a little bit more of a discount. Do what you can, right? And that's why I love seeing the promotions like this. I love seeing what with the free admission. I like seeing, $15 night or $10 night or whatever you can to try and get people through the gates to see the racing. It's excellent. When you're looking at all the stuff that we just looked at, the aquarium, the zoo, the CN Tower, the Jays, all exceeding how much it costs to go to a race. Now, mind you, we were looking just at one racetrack. Prices can definitely vary depending on the racetrack. But you're definitely, if we are charging over $25 or over $30 per person, it's way too much. Way too much. Not in this day and age, especially kids. Like I think that Grand Bend is onto something. Honestly, I think your kids should be getting in free at every track. That's your future generation. That's your future racers. They're the ones that you need them to get into motorsports so that we have a future. In fact, if Dad never took me to the racetrack, I never would have found my love and my passion for motorsports. It never would have happened. He took it, and now look what happened. Bet he regrets it. Now, for ONTrack Weekly, we don't typically do interviews, but what I'm thinking about is trying to get a interview day put together. Try and get some pre-season interviews done with a bunch of racers from across Ontario and feature them on the show. Normally try to do this through Motorama. Unfortunately, technical issues once again, and not all the interviews that I conducted came out very well. We did an interview on SNS Live with Ollie Ferguson last week. That was actually, I think, very well, very good. He did an amazing job, and I definitely believe that interview was one of the best he's ever done. So having something that's available through GeForce TV as well, a little bit bigger of an audience than what we have on SNS. Love to be able to do that. So we're going to possibly look at that. Now, one of the big things you see here at the bottom of the page here before we get to the roster updates is a show change. Now, this is episode 130 of ONTrack Weekly. We started off as NASCAR Penny Series Power Hour. We made that switch to a grassroots racing show. I felt there was a need for it a little bit more than the NASCAR Canada Series. The reality has been that it's been a tough go. Audiences during the show are very quiet for the most part. They're fickle, back and forth, not always here. And I believe a lot of that does have to do with the timing of the show. I know 7 o'clock for me seems late in the day, since I start work at 7 o'clock, but for others, they're just getting home. So we're going to make a switch to 8:30 and make an 8:30 to 9:30 show, make it a little bit later in the day. What it's also going to do is it's allowing a little bit more freedom for Graydon and myself, because we do 2 shows back to back. I do 2 shows back to back. So we typically tape our SNS and we do it later. I do it after we do this show. And sometimes that results in us doing and getting stuff done a lot later. And I don't really want to do that. So we're going to go to 8:30, from 8:30 to 9:30 on GeForce TV. Trying a different time to see if we get a little bit more interaction throughout the show. The interaction always helps move it along. And I want it to be more of an interactive show. People are sharing their opinions, talking about certain things. Unless people just want to sit here and listen to me gab, which I can't possibly believe that people want that. We want to come back and really continue to build and grow this show. It has been, and I'm going to go out and put it out there and be honest in that when you're trying to run a show and you do a lot and you don't get a ton of viewers, it can be very hard to want to keep going, because you're doing the show and saying, why am I doing this? No one is interacting, no one's watching. And I can say right now, we have a great audience. Tonight, we've got a great amount of people tuning in. But I love the fact that we can move stuff around here and try and build and make it easier for people to tune in. And I can't do it, I think, without making a little bit of changes here or there. Like, we have to do that. I mean, if we're not building an audience, if your audience isn't growing, you got to try and do something else. Build it a different way. So we're going to look at possibly getting some interviews coming on. I know people might be more interested in having live interviews. I do all the tech stuff behind the scenes during the show myself. So that is a lot tougher of a job. It's not unheard of. Um, it's not like Race Rivals where Clinton and Adam have Spencer behind the scenes. I'm doing this completely by myself. So it's harder to organize all that stuff um, and host at the same time. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I mean, I definitely want to be able to do stuff like that, get more people to do some intros. Have you noticed we really haven't changed our intros because that's all the drivers that I've gotten, and I know there's a lot more in Ontario that can do um, an intro for me on their phone. It takes 10 seconds, 20 seconds just to say who you are, which division you race, what car you drive, and you're watching OnTrack Weekly, and we can feature you as a racer. I'm looking forward to getting some more racers to do that, a little bit of promo work for us. And without further ado, I mean, we're gonna look into our roster list for right now and take a look and see kind of where rosters are looking. And you know what? Even with it being similar, I think it's been really quiet. And whether people agree or not, there is certainly moves being made that maybe we just don't know about because they haven't been announced yet. But for those that aren't going to announce, aren't going to make a big deal about what they're doing, um, this is what we've got. So you'll see that it is still in Canva. It's making it a lot easier for me to just be using it as a working document here. And so move this over here just a little bit. So what the hope is that we have a working roster list for the 2025 season. We can add to it and people can see all of the drivers in the respective divisions with the respective partners at the respective tracks. Now, I did not think about adding Laird, and that is probably that's disrespectful to them. I just don't really know anything about them, their divisions, any of their racers. But luckily, I did have somebody reach out who is going to help and provide their assistance, so we can get Laird added to this as well. Maybe get some people to head out and take a long trip and go and participate in a weekend there. But we see Sunset Speedway. Got some confirmations on some partners that are going to be back and supporting some names that we have added just based off of conversations with racers and or with team members, people from the track. We have confirmations of some additions that are coming back for 25. Austin Janet is going to be listed in both bone stock and mini stocks. You'll also see Bob Finnemore, Coleridge Finnemore, and Chandler Boss are all now back in the mini stock division for 2025 at Sunset Speedway. Monty Farrell in the modified division. Also joining him, Tyler Liscombe, Steve Trendell, AJ Ems has posted. He had mentioned something about that he's going to be a part of the division that he's in, is including Sunset. So, not sure how many he's going to be doing, but nice to see that. In the hot rod division, we've added Matt Spry, who confirmed to me that he is going to be participating this season, and Corey McAllister is going to do a couple hot rod events at Sunset. Super Stocks, we can confirm, thanks to Sunset Speedway's social media, that Miles Tyson is back to defeat everybody else and defend his 2024 championship. Late models, big kind of confirmations there with the announcement of Ollie Ferguson and Garrett Tiemersma joining the late model program at Sunset Weekly. Garrett also confirming he is not running the 17, but a different number for 2025. So a very interesting change for Garrett. At Full Throttle, we got confirmations again. We see they have Marshman Engines as their junior late model partner, Equipment Ontario for their bone stocks, Epic Racewear for their minis, Chalmers Fuels for hot rods, and the Struck Energy Systems street stock division. Very healthy looking divisions, especially in your junior late models. Big increase for them. Bone stocks are looking fantastic. Mini stocks are still a little bit quiet, as are the mini trucks, but hot rods looking very decent, as are the street stocks. Thunder trucks, I would be curious to see if the Vales join up, then that division's looking really solid once again. But no update on that just yet. In terms of additions, we can say that we've added the Struck brothers, Curtis, Landon, and Michael Struck are all joining the Marshman Engines Junior late model divisions at Full Throttle. Freddie Hancock joining in the Bone Stock division. Joining him, Josh Crawford and Reese Sproul and Haley Harper also joining the Equipment Ontario Bone Stock division at Full Throttle. Ethan Mallon officially in the mini trucks out at Full Throttle as well. And Jake Party has been added, joining in the straight stock division with Sean Giesenhaus, who has also joined up for 2025. Some of those other names, we've already seen them on the website, so there's not much change there. Kyle Garreau in the 08 in the Thunder Truck division out at Peterborough. I'm very quiet in terms of Peterborough names so far. I've got Paul Boundy, who's been added for the Super Stocks, and Stacy Switzer added for the trucks. But aside from that, I really don't have any further additions. We'll be waiting a bit more for more people to confirm what they are doing, but very solid counts still in the junior late model division and, of course, the bone stock division. We expect all these divisions to fill up. It's still very early in the process, though, for 2025 with registrations still to come in. Solid looking fields out at Delaware Speedway. The modifieds, of course, a little bit quiet. Same with the V8 stocks, but we do expect those to move up. Lots of registrations still to come. Edition-wise, not much since the last time that we were on showcasing our divisions here. Randy Caillou Kendall in the Superstock division, Nick Ramsey in the Superstock division have been added. And in terms of the late models, Logan White and David Mathers added in there, with Jonathan Arts, who's going to be back once again in 2025 when we head to Grand Bend. Grand Bend officially, of course, they've added the Pro Sprints to their divisions. No real changes here in terms of what we had since last. Lots of names still to be added. It's just a matter, again, of I'm not as well known and I'm not as familiar out there, so I'm not sure who is going where. It comes with, you got to start adding more people on social media so that you can see those updates. So that's what I'm in the process of right now. Sauble, there is some minor changes here. We've got a bit of a change there in the Legend cars. We were going to have Eric Stewart, but they've made a bit of a change to their plans. Mark Dennis in the number 30. And then a second car for Savannah Finley and her team in the Bone Stock division. Del Freiberger officially confirmed to be part of the Sauble Legends in 2025. So far, he and Cole Camrath are listed as the two so far in the Image Wraps Legend Car Series. We expect there to be plenty more of those names. Flamborough Speedway got confirmation this afternoon that Chance Rogers will be returning in his number 12 bone stock in a pretty decent field so far. Super stocks. So far, we've just got a confirmation of these 3 names because they've been at the booth and or the drivers have confirmed to me. However, I did get to speak with Justin Collison, and Justin is definitely optimistic about the Steel City Super Stocks. Definitely has a real big um, mountain to climb for this division, but by his early counts, it's looking very decent. I'm not going to announce the drivers that he's mentioned. They can definitely make their announcements when necessary. Mini stocks, a little bit of an increase. We know Mike Thompson's not planning on being full-time this year. Mike Gilmore, we're expecting moving out of that division. Michael Kenny, Matt Young, Kate Wallace, Matthew Smith. Tyler Lewis has confirmed he will be full-time in the 59 car. Rory Markle, Chris Pendlebury, and Chris Lawrence is going to do a couple races out once again in the mini stock division. Jay Pepin, Maddox Pepin, Pendlebury, Jordan Ramsbottom, Cam Thompson, and Dave Evison in the Grandstone Landscaping Vintage Modifieds, Canadian Vintage Modifieds as well. And then I've just got Chris House and Billy Schwartzenberg so far out at Flamborough Speedway. Touring divisions now, as we take a look, not much in terms of change here. We've got confirmation on a number for Caden Taylor in the Ontario Bandoleros. Change, of course, to Luke Cuthbertson's number to at least represent his dad. I've added Sherry Hogan. I saw she had a picture of her with her in her car. For Can-Am Midgets, Tyler Cullen's confirmed that he's back. I've added AJ Ems to the modified division. I haven't added the new logo there. Brody Rickwood and Hudson Nagy for the Dayco Superstocks. In the APC series, Tyler DiVincenzo, they've been posting. Ollie Ferguson has mentioned that he is going to do a couple. Jake Sheridan will do a couple. Kyle Steckley will do a couple. And then we've got the Ontario Legend cars. We've added Todd Tolton. Parker Traves is going to run for the championship in the 08. And then you see Eric Stewart and Haley McNichol have been added as well. Expect them to do a couple starts. I think Eric might actually be full-time. And then the Great Lakes Legends, we see Austin Arnell with Jade Franklin, Del Freiberger, Cole Camrath, and Zach Hatch. In terms of the rest of these divisions, very quiet in terms of the rest. I don't have really any additions except for the Ontario Late Model Association that has added Zach Sprung, Roland Goodfellow, Al Inglis, Nick Clark, and Rob Wark, all back in 2025. But we've got plenty more names that will need to be added in 2025. We really appreciate everybody being tuning in tonight. It is always a lot of fun here on the show and on G4s TV. Of course, if you give us a like, subscribe. We're trying to get G4s TV up to 20,000 subscribers. However, we're still sitting at 19,300. Let's try and get up to that 20,000. Send some subscriptions to G4s TV, and we'll try and make some big gains in 2025 here on G4s TV. And of course, for all of you tuning in tonight, I really appreciate it. It's going to be a great season. Officially, after this week, we are under a month until 2025 racing season is green. So we'll see you guys then. Have a great night.